Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Mastering Midlife, How to Thrive When the World Asks the Most of You. I am your host, Mark Silverman. I'm excited today. I get to speak to Jonathan Kaiser. Jonathan spent the last 20 years in commercial real estate, and basically he's a self-described Wolf of Wall Street type of guy, or was, and now he lives through helping others. He wrote a book recently called You Don't Have to Be Ruthless to Win. And what's really cool is I was just on my mastermind talking to some of my people, and I told them I was about to interview Jonathan, and they have read the book and they love the book. So I'm really suggesting that you pick it up. His motto right now is success through others is the greatest business principle of all time, which just gave me chills and a warm heart at the same time, because I am always worried about that I talk about this stuff and it won't be accepted. Jonathan, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for inviting me. It's an honor to be on.
You know, you're such a good messenger for this because, you know, you come across with the same bearing and the same seriousness of a Wolf of Wall Street. And then you have this big open heart. So, you know, it takes one who was in the lion's den to be able to talk about the lion's den. So where did this shift come from? What was your aha moment that shifted this philosophy or way of being, actually?
Yeah. Well, like you said, I used to be a ruthless shark, and I was that way because I thought that's what it took to be successful. I wasn't raised that way. I was raised actually by Christian missionary parents in Papua New Guinea, of all places. And my parents taught me to love and serve and give and help and all that stuff that you tell your kids to do. And the problem for me was when we got back from overseas, I had this stark realization of, wow, I'm poor. And then I really didn't like being poor at all. And so at an early age, I decided I'm going to be rich. And I didn't know what that meant yet. I just knew I was committed to being rich. And for me, I associated selflessly serving others with being poor. And so I wanted nothing to do with selfless service. So I got into commercial real estate, not because I wanted to help people. I got in to get rich. And because I'd heard you could make a lot of money in commercial real estate. And then as I got in, I realized really quickly, wow, this is a ruthless, cutthroat industry. But again, I didn't want to be poor like my parents. So I became ruthless, and I'm an overachiever, Mark. And so I became one of the more ruthless people out there.
If that's what it takes, I'm doubling down, and I'm going to be better at it than anybody.
You got it right. But I was miserable, and I was misaligned with my core values, but I felt trapped because I didn't know a different way. And then 15 years ago, I go to this industry conference, and this guy gets up, and he starts talking about a different way of doing business, about succeeding by helping others succeed. And I was blown away because I'd never heard anything like it. And I tracked him down, and I said, hey, is this really possible? Can you really do this? Is this just some shtick that you say to sound cool to others, or is this real? And he showed me the path, and I said, wow, I want to be that way. If that's maybe even possible for me, I'm sick of feeling like a used car salesman. Sorry to any used car salesman out there. I want to do something where I can actually be successful by helping other people. And that was 15 years ago. So I came back, I tore my old business plan up, and I started on this journey of helping other people. And people thought I'd gone a little bit nuts. You know, here I was, National Rookie of the Year for Grubb & Ellis. And now all of a sudden, a few years later, I'm out in the community doing what looks like free concierge service to anybody who needs anything. And not really doing anything commercial real estate related, just helping people, asking them the question everywhere I went. What can I do to help you? What do you need? Helping people get jobs, helping people get connected, helping people's kids get internships, helping people find the right doctors. Everything that they needed, I would try to help with. And over 5 years of doing that kind of endless service to the community, I developed a really strong core of people I'd served. And I started having people refer real estate business to me that I didn't have to go pitch or sell. And that was exciting. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know,
hold on. So you didn't do that as a strategy. You got your heart opened and you got yourself turned around and you just started to go serve.
Well, great question, Mark. That's how it ended up. In the beginning, it was like, this is a better mousetrap. Part of the reason why it took so long is because I had to learn how inauthentic, how full of shit I was, and that I was just using another form of manipulation to try to get what I wanted versus really being in love with helping other people. When I saw that about halfway through that 5-year, period of reinventing myself, it was I didn't like what I saw. It was ugly and I didn't want to be that way.
How did you clean the mirror so you could actually see that?
Oh man, I had the most amazing coach. His name is Steve Artisan, and he helped me. When I first sat down with him, Mark, he said to me, if you work with me, I'm going to introduce you to yourself for the very first time. And I went, that is the best sales pitch I've ever heard in my entire life. I got to remember that one. But the reality is he was telling the truth, and that's what he did. And he helped me see how I was getting in my own way and how full of shit I was. And that if I just fell in love with helping other people, my success would be extraordinarily higher. So that's what I did. I just fell in love with helping people. And as the referrals rained in, I became more and more successful. And I went from laughing, low producer, laughing stock in my old firm to top producer. And then in 2012, you asked me about my epiphany moment. In 2012, now I'm successful doing this business strategy. I'm trying to build this within a traditional commercial real estate firm. But I'm feeling frustrated because I'm feeling like I'm being limited by the culture of a traditional firm. And I go to Sedona, and for those of you who aren't from Arizona, Sedona is a special place, and it's a lot of meditation, and there's supposedly crystals that capture
and vortexes and other
vortexes and all kinds of energy planes that converge. So I don't know whether it was all that or not, but all I know is I was down in the hot tub, and I was early in the morning, like idyllic setting with the snowflakes gently falling on my head, and I'm staring at the beautiful mountains, the red mountains, and it just hits me in this epiphany moment that what I'm doing is playing small, and that I actually have the opportunity to take what I've learned on success by helping others and teach others and actually have an impact on the world and show people that, look, even in an industry as ruthless as commercial real estate brokerage, you don't have to be ruthless to win. And look at me, I'm doing it. Let me teach you how to do it, and let's together change the world. And so that was the turning point, and came back, resigned from my old firm, and started what is today Kaiser, which is now the largest commercial real estate firm of our kind in the state of Arizona and one of the fastest growing in the country. And everything that we do and all that we're about is success through selfless service. Like you said in the beginning, I believe that selfless service is the greatest business principle of all time. And so for me, as we launched the Kaiser Institute to train, empower, and ultimately certify the next generation of selfless leader, everything that we do is about helping other people succeed, and in return, we succeed.
I went to your website, and there's a video right smack dab in the middle of it for your recruiting. And it's like, if you think that you need to be successful the way traditional commercial real estate people are, you won't have a job for long here, right? It's the exact opposite. So you put your money where your mouth is, right on your front page, and that's really pretty amazing. I want to go back to something you said earlier. You said you associated selfless service with poverty.
Yes.
So, in the coaching industry, we call that a quote unquote limiting belief, or a subconscious belief, like a childhood decision. And that runs us, until it becomes conscious and we can figure out whether or not that's true. Right. So, so how did that unearth, given that was ingrained really deep?
Yes. And I appreciate the question, because I think it's one that's not unique to me. I think that there's this general awareness out there, Mark, that you kind of have to be ruthless if you really want to get ahead. But the problem is it's inconsistent with most people's core values. So why is that? Why do we know how to love? Why do we know how to serve? Why do we believe in that in the areas that it matters the most? Our families, our friends, our communities. And then we feel like we got to get into business and scratch, claw, fight. Why is that? And I believe it's because there's not enough people out there modeling a different way. And if they are modeling it, they're quiet about it. And so that's part of what drove me to write this book and to start the Institute and to do everything that I'm doing. Is I want to show people that it's actually possible. And I think the reason why I was able to shift from associating with poverty, like you just said, and shift into believing that it was possible to create success through it was having an example of someone that had done it. And so, but I just got fortunate enough to show up to this breakout session. For me, why I wanted to put this out into the world is so that anybody could pick this up and say, wow, if this guy can do it, I can do it too. And so that's why the book is organized the way it is. In the first third, I tell my story, and I am very transparent about how much of a prick I used to be. And I tell the deep, dirty, dark secrets of what I used to do and what happens in our industry. And then I paint a picture and a roadmap and teach the reader everything they need to know to create a culture of selfless service for themselves. And that's what I think is lacking out there. I think there's examples of people that are selfless, but there's not a lot of examples of people that are selfless, successful, and willing to go tell people how to do it. So my book is the first that I've found, How To. There's lots of books on selfless service. This is the first book I've ever seen from a business CEO and founder of a company that has built an organization through selfless service, telling you all of his tricks and tools on how you can do it yourself as well.
So what do you think is in the book that will differentiate people the difference between giving to get, like trying this on to make it a profitable thing, and really changing people's souls?
So we talk about 3 levels of reinvention. You have great questions, Mark. We talk about 3 levels of reinvention in the book, and it's an inside out reinvention process. So what does that mean? That means first, you got to start with yourself. You got to be the change you want to see in the world. And part of the challenge for a lot of people is they may want the end result of seeing what we've done through selfless service, but they may not be willing to personally reinvent themselves. Well, that's going to be a hindrance. You're kind of dead upon arrival. Like you can't create a culture of service if you don't start here. So the first part is a want to. Selfless service is always got to be a choice. And I think that's an important distinction. It's not something that anyone else can tell you to do. Even me, sometimes people say, like, I thought you were the service guy. This guy needs help. And I said, no, selfless service always has to be a choice. And so I choose on my own free will to say no to that and yes to that. If it's not that, you can't, right? And so there's none of this overwhelming kind of like should. So you're not so I love that distinction. You're not a doormat. You're not there. You're not everything to all people. You don't lose all boundaries in all sense. It's really a conscious choice of where you're going to put your attention, where it has to be. It just think about it at its most fundamental level. It's not service if it's not a choice. And so if you feel like you're obligated to do something, you're missing the point. The point of this is not, hey, go do good in the world and, sing kumbaya and hug some trees and hold hands. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm describing is I believe that the most rational, self-interested, selfish approach to success is selflessness. I'm tying selfish with selfless. And so people say, well, what the hell does that mean? Well, it's not a quid pro quo. I'm not giving something to someone or helping them in a way and going, okay, man, what's in it for me? That's how most of the world thinks of this. I just have a fundamental belief that's proven every single day at Kaiser. Again, I'm not a talking head. I'm a CEO of the largest company in Arizona of what we do and one of the fastest growing in the country. So this isn't hyperbole. This isn't something I read in a book. I live this, and it's not always easy. But what I've found is that the more I focus on helping other people and the more I pour myself into service to them, the more comes back to me. Now, it's not an exchange, but you cannot outserve, you cannot outgive the universe. And where you serve someone here, something comes back over here. And there's often a time delay. But if you do enough service everywhere you go, over time, you create a cacophony of things coming back. And so the more you keep pushing across the table, the more comes back. And it creates this extraordinary experience where not only do you have financial success, but you have an amazing relationship with the people around you. You have an amazing culture in your organization. You actually have friendships that go way deeper than most people's friendships. You get to sleep peacefully at night. You get to be happy. all these things. But again, we all kind of know this stuff. So business leaders that I talk to, they tend to be concerned about the bottom line. So my message is really simple. If you really care about long-term sustainable success and you want to be a badass, help as many people as possible. And don't quit, because this is the long game. But do it strategically. Help the people that if they were moved and inspired by your acts of service towards them, they would be enabled. They would be in a position to serve you, and let the chips fall where they may. Ask for nothing in return, and you'll be amazed how over time, everything you ever thought you wanted will come to you.
Yeah, I can listen to you all day.
You're kind.
About a decade ago, maybe a little bit longer, I hit the worst stretch in my life, and I've been homeless, and this was worse than that.
What kind of stretch is worse than homelessness?
Suicidal, depressed, hated life, hated myself. I was sick, and and I thought I was going to die, and
wow.
It was really terrible. And what I noticed is that my men's group wasn't calling me. I noticed that people weren't rallying around me. And of course I knew, I was enlightened enough to know, what? I need to be the change. I need to be what I want, what I'm looking for in the world. I need to be that. But what I decided was, and a lot of this came from Pema Chodron. Pema Chodron says when you hit tragedy, your heart can either harden or you can soften.
Yes.
So I doubled down, and I decided if I want this from the world, I have to be this from the world. So I really doubled down on, I am going to serve everybody I come in contact with. I am going to love everybody I come in contact with. I'm going to call people. I'm going to leave notes for people. I'm going to, and nothing happened for the first year. Nothing happened for the second year, like third year. And then I looked back and I looked around after about 3 years, and my life was so full and rich. And I had so many people in my life that, you can count on one hand how many good friends you have and people you can count on. I didn't have enough fingers and toes.
Totally.
And I still don't in my life. Like, I can go to the four corners of this country, and I can go to the four corners of this world. And if I need something, because I just spent my life being what it is that I felt was missing from my life.
Beautiful, man.
Right.
It's beautiful.
So, and that's how this whole coaching thing came, is shifting to a whole new way of being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the hang up for a lot of people, I just had this question. I'm very involved in the Conscious Capitalism movement. You see John Mackey's book behind me, and I spoke to the local chapter this morning here at the Kaiser World headquarters here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And one of the topics that I was talking about was exactly what you just said, which is what's the delineation? How do you distinguish between an act done to serve other people without expecting return and expecting the universe to not keep it in balance, right? And so I think that distinction is the hardest part for most people, because I think there's this association with service where this whole like give and you shall receive, people kind of dismiss the receive. They just assume you're supposed to give, and it's just our duty, and it's our Catholic guilt, and all of these things that just we need to serve, but nobody really wants to serve, but you do it because you feel better and all that. For me, my message is quite simple. It's succeed by serving others. It's what you just described. And the byproduct of that is all the extraordinary things you just mentioned, right? It's that relational element. It's the peace laying on your bed at night and staring up at the ceiling and being able to fall asleep without a care in the world. It's a different kind of existence. But again, that's too squishy for most hard drive and type A business leaders. And so I'm focused just on the bottom line message. You really want to have long-term sustainable success, the very best way, not the only way. Obviously, ruthlessness works. It's worked for many, many years. But you look at the people that have been ruthless and think to yourself, do I really want that? And what if I could not have to be that way, not have to burn every bridge I cross, and not have to be looking over my shoulder all the time? And what if I could just love and serve as many people as possible, and I could have the same level of success or maybe more? And if I could,
well, so what do you say? So what do you say to people who haven't experienced that in themselves?
Yes.
So, you know,
That's
people,
exactly why I wrote the
people
book.
project all over me. Oh, Mark, you're so loving. Oh, you're so open. You're so these things. Like, that's all projection, right? Because they don't feel it in themselves. How do you help? And I have to say, so this morning, someone said to me, I did a coaching session with this person, you know, like a good deep 2.5 hour, just loving session. And she sent me notes saying that just changed everything, her business, everything's going on. And then she sat down with me this morning and she said, Mark, she says, I just got to tell you, you know, this was a couple of weeks ago. She goes, you taught me how to love again. And you taught me how to let love in. And I'm just sitting there just trying not to tear up because we're in the middle of this business. And I'm just like, she says, how did you do that? That was one session. How did you do that? And I said, well, first of all, you warmed my heart. But second of all, I didn't do that. You know, that's what was there. That's there. That's who you are. And two people with open hearts. My heart maybe spoke to your heart. I don't know, you know, because Mark can't do any of that stuff. And I was just so moved that a business coaching session had that impact. But, you know, the thing that I'm present to is all the people who are listening to us talk about this stuff who can't find it in themselves. So yeah. Go on.
Well, that's exactly why I wrote the book. Is I want to be an example to others. Going back to your other question before is, you know, why am I doing what I'm doing? I'm doing what I'm doing because I want to show people that it's possible. And I want to teach them once they get the idea, wow, this really is possible, show them exactly how to do it. And so me being vulnerable with my story and who I used to be and how I've changed gives people an awareness that this is possible and a path to follow. And then giving them a very clear roadmap for how to reinvent themselves and how to create a culture and an organization built on selfless service, filled with selfless leaders. That's the entire point of the book, You Don't Have to Be Ruthless to Win, that I just wrote, right? And it's been amazing. I mean, we just hit #1 on Wall Street Journal. We hit #1 on Amazon in like 7 different categories. And to me, it's just a testament to this message. This message is a message whose time has come. And it's less about the squishy. Everybody already kind of knows that. And you either love or you don't. This is me trying to take the hardest of the hearts and say, for your own personal self-interest, serve others and have them go, huh? What do you mean? And then once I can get even if it's 1% of interest, then I take them through a easy read, compelling story, and then a roadmap to how they could do it themselves. And so the whole point of the book is to teach them how to do that. And we've started the Kaiser Institute to train, empower, and ultimately certify the next generation of selfless leader. And the Kaiser Institute, we have a ton of free resources. You know, we're here to serve. We're here to help.
So where can I point people to for those?
Ruthlessbook.com. So if you go to ruthlessbook.com, that's the easiest way to get to these free resources. And if you buy the book, you don't have to be ruthless to win. As part of that, we give you access to a vault, an online vault of a bunch of additional resources. So we're really here to help. We're really here to try to teach others and other leaders how they can do it for themselves. This book is not a commercial real estate book. This book is a business book for hard-nosed business leaders that say, I want to be more successful. How do I do that? And oh my gosh, if this crazy Jonathan Kaiser guy can go from being arguably the most ruthless shark in the world, still obviously a very strong type A personality, and if he just lives his life now to help other people and he's having success, maybe I can too. And if that crazy of a guy did it, maybe it's possible for me, and probably won't even be as hard as it was for him because he was so far outside the bounds and I'm not. So, but the biggest piece that I think is missing out there in all of the literature and in all of the speaking and all is the how to, the prescriptive. How do I actually do that? So over the past 20 years, we've, through trial and error, figured all this out. And I mean, not all of it, but figured how to do it and put all of those secrets, all those tips, all those tools, and all those resources into one place to help others do what they ultimately will experience great joy from and will realize, hindsight 2020, that it was the greatest thing they've ever done. But doing it for the motivation of financial self-interest, I think is something that most people don't focus on. And so I'm trying to hit people that message will break through too. And
you can
give
be
them
of
an
service.
opportunity.
You can be of service, and it's okay to want nice things.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. Exactly right.
That's such a beautiful thing. So you just sold a case to me. So if I can get a discount, that'd be great, because I have,
I'll give you the wholesale discount.
Yep. Like to give it out like candy. Then the next question is, who was that guy who was in the breakout session who turned you around?
His name is Dave Toomey. He's out of LA. He's still a good friend of mine.
We want to give him a shout out, because if he cracked your nut, that's pretty cool.
He's a good man. There was two major influences along this line in my life. He was the first one, and then he referred me to another Dave, Dave Marino, who really laid out the plan and gave me another book. One of my good friends is Keith Ferrazzi, who wrote Never Eat Alone. Mm-hmm. And so I read that book too, and that book was very, very useful for me as I went to reinvent myself. But yeah, at the end of the day, this story isn't about me. This story is just to show you it's possible. And if this even kind of is enticing, pick it up, read it. I think you'll enjoy it.
You get 100% endorsement from me and my mastermind group. Thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it. So what's next for you? Is there anything else besides the book and the Institute? So we're going to put all that in the show notes so people don't have to remember any of this, so they can just click on and find you.
Thank you.
What's coming up that's exciting for you?
Oh, we got a lot. We got a lot coming down the pike. It's kind of been crazy doing the media circus. I've been flying around doing morning shows, and
you were in Washington, D.C., and I didn't get to meet you in person.
Yeah,
that's where I am.
It's been a whirlwind, man. It's been a wild ride, and we're just getting started. So just a lot more of brand awareness. I hired a president and chief growth officer who's a complete stud to take us from a small 8-figure company to a $1 billion and beyond company. And he's built a lot of different $1 billion businesses, and he's someone that we really mesh with well and has an amazing alignment with our culture here at Kaiser. And so it's really exciting to be putting the different pieces in place to really build this into something that's going to have true global impact. But at the end of the day, it's one person at a time, listening to this podcast or seeing me on a morning show and picking up the book and reading it for themselves and deciding within, wow, I want to do this myself. I want to be a part of something like this. And so that's the whole reason why we wrote the book. That's the whole reason why we spent the time to do the Kaiser Institute. And there's a lot of cool resources through the Kaiser Institute too, where, depending upon what level you want to engage with us and how deep you want to dive, we can help in a lot of ways. So you don't have to do it all on your own. We can help you through the Kaiser Institute. And then, for us, we're also really looking, since you're listened to all across the country, what we're really looking for are people within the commercial real estate industry that are sick and tired of the traditional, that wish there was a better way, that wish there was a company that actually had a culture that was worth working for in commercial real estate brokerage, and that was up to something big. And for those people, we want to know them, because we're going to be launching offices in markets all across the country. So if you're one of those people listening, call us. We'd love to have a conversation. But at the end of the day, what's going to be most exciting for me is other people living and believing and succeeding through helping other people.
Love it. I when I first saw the book come out, I was like, oh, another book about being nice. Right. And I dismissed it for a second. And then, of course, our mutual friend, Steve Artisan, is the one who pushed it. And I went, oh, no, he doesn't push anything nice. Right. That this is going to be substance. So I looked further and saw that anybody who picks this up and thinks it's about being a nice salesman is going to be in for a pleasant surprise, because,
yes,
to do selfless service, it's such a fierce thing that it really will satisfy that urge to be ruthless and competitive, and it's such a juicy way of living that I think it really is. I was in AA for years, and it was like the worst drunks, became the best people to get people sober. So the worst rat in the commercial real estate is going to teach people to be really selflessly service. So I really appreciate that.
No, it's my honor. Thanks for inviting me to be on.
Thank you for being on the show. I'm really, this is incredible. To everybody else, thank you for your precious time and attention. You know how much I appreciate it. I love you and have a great rest of the day.